Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Steelers and Ravens in Baltimore on Sunday, but yet still another rivalry game going down in Happy Valley tomorrow night. We'll talk about it. Welcome to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm your host, Josh Taylor, in tonight for Rich Walsh. Glad to talk to you on a Friday night. Also, doing a little pinch hit duty live from the 93.7 The Fan newsroom. He is one half of the PM team. Weekdays 2 to 6, 93.7 The Fan. Chris Mueller, good friend of mine, joins me. RIP to my Twitter mentions because Chris is on the show tonight. But Chris, of course, stepping up the T-shirt game as always. Good to see you, my man.
Josh, always a pleasure to talk to you. I was trying to think of some clever, really great pinch hitters throughout the years to name myself after. And the best I could come up with in the Pirates lore is John Vanderwall, Gary Varsho, guys like that. I'm struggling to think of anything better, though. My
go-to is Matt Stairs. That's my go-to.
Okay, that's fair. I think we'll go with that one. So that's why you're the host, and I'm sitting here with a long-sleeve T-shirt on.
I'm a sucker for Canadian guys with big bellies and pop. That's about it. That's pretty much the best thing I can think of. Let's get off the MLB topic. We might get back to MLB
liked to sock
in just
the
a few
taters. Matt liked to sock those taters, though. He took a big old manly cut at the ball.
Always. Never disappointed. Whether he made contact or not, he never disappointed. It was always good theater. It's just putting it out there. We might get back to MLB a little bit.
Contact is very overrated anyway.
I'm not going to argue with that. Never going to argue with that. Let's get to football here for a second. We got Steelers and Ravens here on Sunday. The big discussion when it comes to this game is always the same thing, right? Hard-nosed defense, low-scoring affairs, which isn't entirely inaccurate. The last 8 times these teams have played in Baltimore specifically, it took 26 points for the winning team to win the game, and a few times it took only 23. So we know that much. But at the same time, we're looking at two offenses that have actually performed at a pretty good level. The Steelers, of course, having the balance that they have, but then the Ravens also have the reigning MVP in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this is, Josh, when you match the defenses here, it's the number 1 scoring defense in Baltimore right now, and it's the number 1 in total defense in yards allowed, and that's the Steelers. So you have two interesting defenses in that regard. As far as the offenses go, though, you know what's interesting about Baltimore's attack, and I think you've probably heard this the same as I have from a lot of different people, a lot of the chatter this week. The Ravens are 5-1, but they don't have the feel of the dominant outfit that they were last year. And one of the interesting numbers that bears that out, the scoring average for them very high. They're a top 10 scoring team. I want to say 6th in the NFL. But I was looking up the total yardage numbers for Baltimore's offense today. I believe 27th off the top of my head in total yards. Just not a dynamic, chain-moving offense like they were last year, where it was just first down after first down and they were relentless. They've been very efficient in what they've paid off, the drives that they've managed to convert into touchdowns. But this really isn't, so far, the statistically frightening team that they were last year.
Now let's flip it over to the Steelers offense here for a second, because we've had this discussion quite a bit throughout the course of the day. We talked to Andrew Filipponi about it earlier, talking about the Steelers wide receiver core. 4 receivers on this team with at least 8.5 yards per catch, a 5th if you want to count tight end Eric Ebron. But you also have a pretty good defensive backfield in Baltimore. However, they're a little bit banged up. So as far as that matchup is concerned, Chris, what are you looking at Sunday?
Well, if Jimmy Smith is hobbled to a significant degree, even if he plays, I think that's a huge boon for the Steelers because he is a big physical corner. We know Humphrey is one of the absolute best to do it, I think is how Mike Tomlin would characterize it. The real wild card there is Marcus Peters, and it's just impossible to predict which Marcus Peters shows up. I doubt his teammates are even positive of that. If good Marcus Peters shows up, that is at best for the Steelers a stalemate. If bad Marcus Peters shows up, I am going after him if I'm Ben Roethlisberger. That is playing with fire a little bit, but he can be had. I think it's going to be a really interesting test for the Steelers wide receivers. I think that Ebron is going to have to play a big role because really, if those top 3 corners on Baltimore are healthy, I'm not saying they can shut down the Steelers' top 3 wide receivers because I think it's almost impossible to do that in this day and age in the NFL, but they can slow them down. So that means Eric Ebron's got to be a much bigger facet in the offense. You know who's a guy I'm looking out for, too, this week is James Washington.
Yes.
It strikes me as his kind of game. I think they're going to try to take away Juju. They're going to try to take away Claypool. They're going to try to take away Deontay Johnson. They're going to try to make somebody else beat them, right? An expansion of the Belichick theory. Don't let the other team's best guys run roughshod. To me, James Washington has continued to be the forgotten man. Doesn't put up big numbers, but it seems like when Roethlisberger looks his way, good things are still happening. So I look at Ebron, I look at Washington, and if the Steelers want to win, I think both of those guys have to make contributions.
To your point, it does seem like in years past, this team hasn't had enough guys that could step up and make plays. Now they have an entire cadre of them. It's just a matter of, if you're Ben Roethlisberger, finding the open guy and getting him the football. 412-575-2600 on the Bordas and Bordas hotline. We got to take a break. We come back, we're answering phone calls, and we're answering maybe a couple tweets, depending on how nice they are to Chris. We'll be right back.